Hi guys and welcome back to Irony Completed. I just want to get this out of the way before I start saying anything else. This is an ECG. I'm having an ECG. I know people are going to notice it, so I thought I might as well just say what it is. It's an ECG, which is an echocardiogram if you guys didn't know. They're just monitoring my heartbeat because I've been having an irregular heartbeat. It's nothing serious and nothing to be worried about. I just didn't want you guys to think that I was like sick and like just pretending that I wasn't or anything, so I thought I'd bring it up myself first. On to the point of this video. This video is a collaboration video with my new friend on YouTube, Shayna. I will link her channel down in the description so you guys can go check out her video once you finish watching this one. We have decided to make a how to start a journal collab video today. So all of you guys out there who are wanting to start a journal but aren't sure how exactly to go about it can get a better idea of how to start writing in a journal regularly. Shayna has such a cool lifestyle channel. I don't even know if I can describe her as lifestyle. She's got such unique content. It's really about life coaching and improving your mental well-being and all that kind of stuff. I really can't describe it. All of her videos are so positive and happy and upbeat. They just make me really happy to watch, and I really enjoy her content, and I'm sure you guys will as well. So since both of us wanted to put out positive vibes into the world, we decided to do a collab video, like I said. So make sure that once you finished watching this video, you go watch Shayna's How to Start a Journal video as well. So you want to start writing in a journal, but you don't know where to start. That's a really common problem that people have, is just, how do I start writing? And the thing is that once you get started, you form a habit of it really easily. Another problem that I know people face is getting started and then kind of petering out and not writing in your journal, which is something that I go through periods of as well, and you shouldn't be too hard on yourself about it. Sometimes it can be difficult to write regularly if you lead a really busy life. But leading a busy life and being too busy or too emotionally tired or whatever to write in your journal is all the more reason that you should be keeping a journal. So I want to give you guys some tips and tricks on how to get started in a way that means you will carry on consistently writing, rather than in a way that you will just abandon it after a month. The first thing you need to do is think about picking out what book you are going to write in for your journal. This is my current journal. It's a fabric bound lined notebook, but examples of things that I have used in the past are things like this journal from Waterstones, and always the simple Moleskine, which is probably the king of all journals in my opinion. I find, for me personally, that picking out cute stationery is a way of ensuring that I will want to write in my journal. It's the same thing that I do when I'm going back to university or when I was going back to school, is buying a cute pencil case, buying some cute stationery, because it will make me want to study. And it does work, but I don't want you to go out there and buy really expensive journals if you can't afford it. Picking out anything that will work for you is fine. You can use just plain ruled notebooks. You can even use loose leaf paper, although I would recommend buying a small-ish bound together notebook, just because that's the easiest kind of thing to have. But there are a couple of things that you need to bear in mind when you are starting your journal, and in order to know what kind of journal to pick out, you need to know what your intentions are for starting this journal. Are you just gonna write in it and that's it? Write down your feelings, no drawing, no collaging, just writing down your feelings, what happened to you that day, that kind of thing. Are you going to use it as a sketchbook journal? Are you going to use it as a collage journal and stick in the bus tickets and train tickets and cinema tickets and all that kind of thing that you've used that day? Are you going to use it as a travel journal? There are lots of different types, and it's important to know which type you are going to be keeping so that you can pick out the right kind of stationery. For instance, if you're going to use it as a sketchbook journal and a writing journal, then picking out something like a Moleskine that has no lines, just plain paper, is something that's going to be important. If you're just going to be writing in your journal, then a lined notebook is totally fine. And if you're going to be using a collaging kind of journal where you're going to be using glue, then you need to pick out a paper that's thick enough so that you can glue things down, stick things in, and that kind of thing. So it might seem like a straightforward thing, picking out a notebook, but actually there are quite a few things to consider depending on what kind of journal you want to be keeping. I personally keep two journals, and I keep them in two separate notebooks. I have a sketchbook journal that I keep in a Moleskine, and I have a journal where I write down my feelings and emotions and all that kind of jazz, which I keep in a lined notebook. This is my current one, like I said. I've been using it up for what feels like forever, and I'm only just halfway through. You don't have to keep two separate journals like I do. If you're gonna draw and write in the same thing, then I'd recommend using just like plain paper. But keeping two separate journals, for me personally, just like compartmentalizes things in my head, and I like to keep things organized and tidy, but you totally don't have to do that. You can just pick out whatever kind of thing you want. Another thing to consider is the size of your journal. It's fine getting one of those A4 sized notebooks, but it's also important to pick something out that you can carry around and transport with you if you want to. If it's going to be a sketchbook journal where you're going to draw everything you see and that kind of thing, then something pocket sized might be really handy, or something that will fit in a handbag. Something that's easy to transport if you go on holiday or if you go visiting friends and stuff. They're all things to consider as well. Another thing I want to say about that is you don't have to pick out something that's pre-decorated like these two journals. I always pick out just pretty notebooks, but something that you can do is just pick out a plain, small, kind of A5 size notebook, and then cut out pictures from magazines, print out pictures of you and your friends from the internet, from Pinterest or Tumblr, and then decorate it yourself to make it a lot more personal, which I think is actually a lot cuter and, like I said, more personalised than just buying a pretty notebook from Paperchase or Waterstones. Something that I like to do in the front of all of my journals, which I think is kind of an important thing to do, is write your name and contact info. My contact info is on a different page because I didn't want to show you guys my contact info, but I always write this journal belongs to Yvette Seneca Stimson, so write your full name and then your address or a phone number in case your journal gets lost, which seems pretty obvious, but it's actually really important to remember to do that from a practical standpoint, especially if you're going to be carrying your journal around. You might accidentally leave it on a bus or a train or in a park or something. You want that back. It's sad losing something personal to you. And something else that I always like to do is the date that I started the journal on and the date that I finished the journal on. This is important for your future self, because if you're going to be someone who keeps a lot of journals over the years and keep this up for a very long time, then you can know the kind of years that you are writing in that specific journal, and then if you want to go back and read it in the future, you can go, what was I doing in 2013? And then pick out the journal that's relevant. I know that this is really important because my dad has about 4 boxes of journals that I'm going to have to sort through in the future, and I'm just praying that he's dated them all, because I'm going to have to sort through them and send them on to him in Finland, and I'm just praying that he's dated them. Writing in a journal can be something that's really, really intimidating, but there are lots of things that you can do to prompt yourself and get started. You can look at journaling prompts online. This is something that I mentioned in my previous video. There are loads of journaling prompts on Pinterest and things like that, and I'll leave a few linked below down in the description. Something else that I like to start off with is just sit down and think, how am I feeling today? Is there anything that's nagging at me in the back of my mind? Did I have a really interesting experience or conversation that day? And all those kinds of things. There are all ways to start a journal entry, but you can write about whatever you want in your journal because it's yours. Something else that's really important when starting writing a journal that can be quite difficult is to tell the truth and be honest with yourself about how you're feeling about yourself, in yourself, and about other people and about experiences that you've had. It can be really easy to just gloss over things and pretend like things haven't affected you, but it's actually really important to just be honest with yourself when you're writing in your journal and admit when you're having a negative day or when you're having negative feelings about a friend or family member, because no one else is going to read it. This is for you, and if you can't be honest with a blank notebook, then who can you be honest with? It's a really good way of getting in the habit of opening up your feelings and expressing yourself, and if you get used to writing all of the honest experiences and feelings down on paper, it'll be a lot easier to open up to like your parents or a friend in the future, in my experience. And along the same lines, close down that inner critic, just like shut it off, lock it in a cage. You don't have to write perfectly grammatically and all your spelling is perfect and, you know, your sentence structure is on point. That doesn't really matter. It's not an essay. You're not going to get a grade on it. Like, it's fine. This is for you. I find the easiest way to write in my journal is in a stream of consciousness fashion, where I just write down exactly what I'm feeling and don't think too much about where to place that comma or where my sentences need to end and start. Those kinds of things are for school, not in a journal, and if you get too caught up on keeping it neat and tidy and grammatically perfect, then you won't want to write in it because you'll be too scared of messing it up. You can write critically about events, about people, about yourself if you feel like it, but don't think critically about the style and way that you're writing. That's not what's important, it's about what you're writing. The substance over style thing is really important here. An important way of making sure that you will form a habit of writing in your journal is making sure that you write regularly. I personally wouldn't recommend forcing yourself to write every day, because if it becomes a chore, then it's not something that you're going to want to carry on doing. So I try and write in my journal at least 2 or 3 times a week, but if I go longer than a week without writing in my journal, I don't beat myself up about it too much. I just make sure that next time I'm forming a habit and carrying on writing more regularly. But making sure that you do write regularly is important. If you leave it months and months and months between when you're writing, then it's not going to become a habit, it's just kind of something that you do occasionally. Whereas in order to get the most benefits from writing in a journal, you need to make sure that you are writing several times a week, if not several times a month. Setting aside time to write is really important, and I don't just mean like sitting down and writing for 15 minutes 3 times a week or whatever, like I said. I mean thinking of the times when you need to write. So times that I would recommend writing in your journal are when you've had a really stressful or bad day, when you've had a really strong emotional experience, when you're having a really emotional low period or a depressive period, when you've had a fight with someone and you need to get out all your anger and emotions, those kinds of things. Basically, writing in your journal when you need to heal and using it in a cathartic way is probably the best way to write in your journal, because even if you feel like you can't talk to friends or family members or a therapist if you're having mental health issues or whatever, writing in a journal is at least getting it out of your system and ranting and releasing all of those pent-up emotions. I prefer to write at the end of a day, so I will sit down in bed at the end of a day if I've had a bad day or if I have a lot to write about and things I want to talk about. I will write it all down, and then I will sleep a lot better than I would have if I had just kept those feelings bottled up inside of me. Because like I said, even if you feel like you can't tell a friend or family member, telling a blank notebook becomes a lot easier, and by telling a blank notebook and by using that as a way to open up, it will become easier to talk to friends and family members in the future. I would also recommend writing in a comfortable and cozy environment. If you want to carry your journal around and write wherever you go, wherever you have a strong feeling, that's a really good thing and a really good way of keeping a journal as well. You know, you might be out and about in public and feeling really negative, but writing it down will help. So that's why keeping a pocket journal can be quite helpful. But if you're someone who works a 9-to-5 job or who goes to school and who can't just whip out a notebook and write down how they're feeling whenever they feel like it, setting aside a comfy place, a quiet atmosphere is another way of making sure that you will keep the habit. Like I said, I write my journal in bed, I dim the light slightly, I make sure I'm nice and cozy, I'll have a cup of tea at the same time or a warm drink and things like that. I'll make it an enjoyable experience myself rather than something where I feel like I am writing a project for school or whatever. And of course the most important thing to do is just to keep it up so that you form a habit. Keep, you know, reassuring yourself about all these things, come back to videos, use prompts if you're struggling, and just make it a habit so that whenever you have a negative feeling, your first thought is, I want to write about that in my journal. Like I said, I will link below all of Shayna's journaling videos and my previous journaling video if you guys want to get more tips and tricks about keeping a journal. And don't forget, now that you've finished watching my video, to go over to Shayna's channel and subscribe and watch her how to start a journal video. I know you guys are gonna love her and her videos, so make sure that you go over to her video and tell her that I sent you. If you want to subscribe to my channel, then please go ahead and do that and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Cute stationery is a way of... Why is my next door neighbour playing the ukulele? Did you know she played the ukulele?
Yeah, I told you about a year ago.
Ah, cool. If you can hear ukulele music, it's my next door neighbour. Airplane. Itchy throat.
Hello?
That was the telephone. Go shut the door. I mean, setting a time... Basically, writing in your journal when you need to heal and using it as a catharsis... What?